that I did thank her later on. I also want to thank the AHRC, who's of course our funder, and we have two, may I say, colleagues from the AHRC here today, Aga and Kathy will say a few words in a moment. Also, a thank you, of course, to our three consortium institutions, University West of England, Bristol, Falmouth University, and the University of Plymouth. Also, very, very importantly, a thank you to to the co-directors who preceded us, and I believe one of them is here today as well, Professor Roberta Mox. Thank you very much for all the hard work that you and our colleagues have put into this CDT in the past. Also, thank you to my colleague Maureen Partridge. She is the 3D3 administrator based here at UWE Bristol, who helped with bookings and facilitating, and again, putting this event together and supporting 3D3 in her role. Moving on, I want to thank all the supervisors of all the PhD students on this program, and because yes, it's a very intense relationship, right? The supervisor-student relationship, and making sure that things are moving in the right directions. But of course, most importantly, I do want to thank the students and alumni of 3D3, because that's what makes this Center for Doctoral Training. Thank you very much. So thank you to the 3D3 community overall, the supervisors, the students, the co-directors, the institutions, the AHRC, that have made this 3D3 CDT possible. And to actually say a few more words about what this CDT was or is about and what makes it so special, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Professor Lee Miller from Falmouth University. I feel this was an easy mistake to make because in a previous guise, he was of the University of Plymouth, but now famously of Falmouth University. Thank you very much.
Yes, I believe my mother would say I'm a bugger for punishment, because I've returned to 3D3 having been the co-director following on from the sterling and fabulous foundations laid by Roberta. I took over as co-director after she became too busy to continue in that role. So I was co-director of 3D3 at Plymouth, and then went into the wilderness and then came back to Falmouth. It's a different kind of wilderness. Beautiful, nevertheless. So similarly to Bernhard, wanting to extend my thanks, not least to him and to Anya, who I think have worked tirelessly over this summer period, and of course to Maureen for the work that they've all done to ensure that we've got the right venues and everything else. To Simon Poulter, who has organised the exhibition at Sparks, which we'll have the opportunity to wander over and look at later on, and of course to Beth. To Beth, who's done a really sterling job. No, I was just saying thank you. So I was using my diaphragm to make sure that you could be heard. Projection. Yeah. I can always be heard at the back of the auditorium. That's why this freaks me out a little bit. It's an interesting moment to be standing here, because the 3D3 Centre for Doctoral Training was launched in 2014 with an aim to train a new generation of interdisciplinary practitioner researchers. The CDT, as Bernhard has already said, was a partnership between Falmouth University, obviously I'm putting my place first, I actually went alphabetically, the University of Plymouth and the University of the West of England, UWE Bristol. With all three universities located in the southwest of England, we joined together to honour our institution's commitment to fostering innovation through practice as research in the creative performing arts, especially the interrelated fields of digital design, digital media, and digital arts, including music and performance. In 2017, following the allocation of National Productivity Investment Funds, we expanded the focus of the CDT to include 12 studentships to support arts STEM collaborations, which saw projects working at the interface of robotics and art, design for health, and medical education contexts. And then in 2018, we were successful in securing further NPIF monies, which led to the development of Creative Economy Engagement Fellowships, a series of postdocs with direct interface into the creative industries, 6 emerging academics contributing to the creative industries in the wide Southwest and an area of the country with significant economic and social challenges. The social impact of the knowledge exchange cannot be underestimated. I do that historical overview to point to the fact that 3D3 extended beyond being a centre for doctoral training, even though that is, of course, its core business. It also extended beyond the initial articulation of supporting practitioner researchers and had the opportunity to move towards that interface with STEM subjects, which was and remains really very interesting and exciting. With 3D3 ending its recruitment in 2018 following the AHRC's shift to focus on larger scale doctoral training partnerships, we moved to the end of a cycle. So we stopped recruiting in 2018, but everything old is new again. And on Wednesday, I got a delightful email in my inbox saying, pre-announcement, from November, we being the AHRC, will be inviting applications for eligible UK HEIs to host consortium model doctoral training grant opportunities, CDTs. So this isn't a massive shock because I'm going to name drop now. I was having a conversation with Christopher Smith in November, like I do, at another legacy event. And he kind of intimated that was probably the direction of travel, to move towards challenge-focused CDTs and unsettle to a certain degree the scale of the DTPs. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity, and it's exciting because I'm looking around the room now at former students, many of whom are now colleagues in universities and research organisations around the country. And if you'll forgive the Carrie Bradshaw of it all, I can't help but wonder what future CDTs might look like and how they might be informed by those who studied at Falmouth and Plymouth and UWE with this particular 3D3 CDT. So I feel that we were designing this event as a goodbye, but now it feels like it's a hello. So welcome all. Have a wonderful time, because I know that I have had. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I want to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Kathy Kerford of the AHRC. I'm just going to read the bit of your profile just to make sense. So Kathy is the Associate Director for Major Programs and Cross-Council Partnerships. She's responsible for leading major multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary investments, including our work in design, artificial intelligence, and the creative industries. She also oversees strategy development, stakeholder engagement, and monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And Kathy will talk to us today a bit more about support, as you know from the title, Supporting Creative Futures. And she'll place probably also this new kind of doctoral initiative that has just come out on Wednesday in the wider context of the AHRC's direction of travel, in particular in relation to the creative economy. And before I hand over to Kathy, I do need to extend another apology. I will have to go off to Sparks in a few moments. So Kathy, if I do walk out during your talk, it's nothing personal or political, it's logistical. Yeah, that makes sense. So I will be at Sparks throughout the day to kind of staff that space, and then hopefully I will be able to welcome you all over there for the reception from about 6:15 after the end of the symposium here around 5 o'clock. So Kathy, if I could ask you to come, and thank you very much.
Yes, so I'm just here really to give you a grand title for just a bit of an overview of where AHRC is at really in terms of our work in creativity and the creative economy, and I oversee chunks of that within AHRC, although obviously it extends right across our portfolio. By way of background, so you've had some background already on 3D3, and this is kind of our background to the work in this area. So for more than a decade, we've been working in the sort of creative ecology space, we're working with Brighton Fuse and Fuse North East, actually, knowledge exchange hubs, one of which sat in Bristol here, and some major investment over the last 5 years in our Creative Industries Clusters programme. And again, Bristol and Bath is one of our clusters, and that's a piece of work that's been that I've been very close to, particularly over the last 3 years. Also really building a portfolio in design investments, including having our Leadership Fellow Paul Rogers working on Design Research for Change, Design Challenges of the Future Fellows, exploring various design interventions in different areas. And broadly speaking, design-focused CDTs, a programme of activity which led to, among other things, the creation of 3D3, which you don't need me to tell you about. So all of this work, we feel like we're sort of at a culmination point really at AHRC, particularly as our clusters programme draws to the close of its five-year period, and not quite a turning point, but a point of reflection to think about where we go next and what we do. And over the last year or so, we've been building a really strong sense of what our work in the creative economy should look like for the future. And that's linked to a published AHRC vision that you can find on our website, and a theory of change that we've created to try and be really clear about where we think we can support research to go in the future. Specifically then in our creative economy portfolio, we're interested in supporting place-based, responsible, innovation-led growth. We know that the creative economy and creative industries in particular can drive growth, and that speaks marvellously well to government, so we are going to continue to support that. We want to build a creative skills pipeline. We hear a lot about the need for creative skills in this country, and we're not developing them. That's not just a job, I don't think, for doctoral training. That extends right back, but we want to play the part that we can do in that process. Impact is a word that is still kicking around, but essentially we know of the benefits that work across a broad spectrum of creative practice and creative activity can bring to the UK, to the world, and we're interested in making the most of that. And crucially, there's a way of working that we get to do this, and it's not by AHRC sitting in Swindon or wherever else we sit coming up with plans on our own, but it's about working with partnership and the people who can really make a difference. And increasingly we're trying to think about how we can do that and do that better. That also involves working better with the other research funders that sit with us in Swindon at UKRI, and precisely because of the sort of interdisciplinary activities that you've mentioned, Lee. So what are we doing? We're doing all sorts of things now. We've this year launched CoStar, which is a massive £75 million investment in virtual production facilities. It's very much grown out of what we've learned from our Creative Industries Clusters programme, and that's going to put R&D labs all around the country. We've managed to get a commitment to a further 50 million investment in more creative clusters. So we're going to be doing that again. It's going to take us a couple of years to sort of gear up to it, but that's coming and that's happening, and we're really excited about that. And our Creative Industries Policy and Evidence Centre, which we started 5 years ago, has had another round of funding. It's moved host, so it's now got a base in the northeast as well, which is fantastic. And that's continuing to just bring us really brilliant data and intelligence on the creative industries. We're also working much more broadly now, though. So we've kind of, in the spirit of partnership working, in particular, we're sort of reaching out to really expand our impact in specific areas. So an exciting piece of work is our Circular Fashion Trilateral, which we've invested in with the Natural Environment Research Council and Innovate UK, and that's looking at economically viable and scalable circular fashion models, all sorts of disciplines and departments and institutions involved in that piece of work. We've got a Design Future Observatory, which is being delivered for us by the Design Museum, which is £25 million to explore sustainable and inclusive responses to the climate crisis. This year, we've just been working on identifying some big green transition ecosystems, so big investments in piloting sort of demonstrator work in that area. Super exciting. We also now work very closely with the Design Council, which has become part of the UK Research and Innovation family. So we've really kind of cemented our sort of our investment in design and a kind of just at the beginning, I think, of exploring how that can work, how the Design Council can work with us right across the sort of research landscape to bring kind of creative design thinking to what we do. All manner of international partnerships. We're working with China. We're really keen to build some activity with India, and there's lots going on in India to plug into. I'm going to move on because actually this is quite a long list. Then more broadly, so our work now is kind of moving into building bridges with cultural heritage and the galleries, libraries and museums sector. So we've got Rich as another big infrastructure investment looking at clusters of excellence across the UK, supporting heritage science. We're looking at dance. We're exploring what we can do in dance through Dance Research Matters programme and craft. So looking at how we can look to sort of really core creative disciplines to sort of grow new activity, which might come to inform things like our clusters programme. And just recently a music public engagement hub, which we've started advertising. And then in our skills space specifically, AHRC has been an exciting development for us this year. So that's working with cultural heritage institutions to explore how they can use immersive tech and is building skills and opportunities within particularly small organisations. We've got big pieces of work happening around AI. We do not want the AI conversation in research to progress without arts and humanities thinkers being at their heart. And one of those pieces of work is exploring, as part of a sort of big UKRI call, how we can get involved in AI CDTs. We've got Innovation Scholars in Design, which Aga, who's here, can tell you lots more about, which is looking to create secondments in the design area. And then, as Lee has already trailed, we've got our brand new AHRC CDTs. So just to sort of reflect really on that context, because I think everything you said was bang on, really, is that we're kind of at a beginning and an end at the same time here. So what I've kind of tried to show you is we've got quite a vast portfolio now in what we'd call the creative economy and that kind of creative space, from kind of small investments to really big activities with partners around the country and in different sectors and disciplines. And we're at a point where we need to think about what next. And one of the ways that we ask the question about what next is coming back to our doctoral community and looking at the talent that's coming through and the thinking that's coming through, and taking a broad view to understand how we can work with arts and humanities researchers to sort of create the next generation of thinking. And that's kind of, I think, what sits behind our CDT work here. Now, we have got two CDTs. There's one in the creative economy and there's also one in arts and humanities for a healthy planet, people and place. Those two things will no doubt overlap and intersect. They're not distinct entities, but we're working in both of those areas. And across them both, we want to generate new knowledge, we want to deliver world-class training, we want to address skills gaps, and we want to support collaboration. And then just specifically in the creative economy area, it's a little bit more detail about what we're looking for. And I hope this comes through. So developing enhanced creative practice in different settings and contexts, positive impacts, diversity, skills and growth. It's really broad, and it's purposefully broad. So we have a lot of targeted investments now, because that's what tends to be what you do when you scale up. Here we want to go back to our thinkers and our brilliant community, and allow new ideas to grow in the doctoral space, that we hope will then feed in to our next big investment, our next big activity with whoever that needs to be and wherever that needs to be. So, challenging week for arts and humanities research funding, but I hope some really positive opportunities as well, and we're excited about it. I'm excited about it. I feel hugely privileged to work on our creative economy activity, which is so diverse and so broad, and also so flipping easy to sell to policymakers. If you can talk to them about this kind of creative activity, speaks to everybody. So it's an absolute gift, and I'm really pleased to be here, and I hope you have a wonderful day learning all about the fantastic things that 3D3 have been doing over the last few years. Thank you.